All right, here we go. Once again, we have former Hells Angels president, George Christie. Welcome back to VladTV.
I appreciate the additional invite, and here I am. And good to see you and meet you.
Yeah. Our last interview did some pretty big numbers.
Did you?
Yeah. Absolutely. I see, you did a bunch of different podcasts after that.
Right, I did, actually. I think yours was very successful. Interviewer was good. And then I did something with Michael Franchise, who I was
regular on my show,
I was a prisoner with.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
Yeah, 1986. We were on Terminal Island together. It's when he'd done that big gas heist.
Right.
they were not happy with it.
Right. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I actually watched that interview earlier today. So, how similar is the Hells Angels to the Italian Mafia?
Well, the Italian Mafia is one organization, and so are the Hells Angels. I think the biggest difference is there's no commission, if you will, in the Hells Angels. There's a commission in the Mafia, and I think that's how they intertwine them all together. And I think that's why RICO works for the government in what you call traditional organized crime. They tried that in 79, 80 with us, and you had 2 mistrials, and then Mueller, we all know Mueller, he ultimately said, we're not going to retry this. It just wasn't working. And they came at us initially one at a time, which was traditionally always worked for law enforcement against Hells Angels. But they tried to combine us all together. It didn't work well for them. The next big operation was Operation Rough Rider, where they targeted the East Coast, but came across into the West Coast as well. No success out here. They got a lot of East Coast guys, and that's what they got Chuck on that, Zito.
Chuck Zito, yeah.
Yeah.
I interviewed him recently.
I know you did.
Right. So, in the Hells Angels, you have the president of all the chapters, which was Sonny Barger for a long time.
See, that's really not correct. He was a de facto leader.
Okay.
Like many times when Sonny was in prison, even when he was on the street, when he was recovering from his cancer surgery and whatnot, I would be put in charge of something. And what happens is you wind up becoming a de facto leader because people look at you for leadership and guidance. They go, well, this guy's running the meeting. He must be the leader. And in that sense, you do become a leader. But you're not traditionally voted on. The Outlaws, they have an international leader. The Banditos, these are other motorcycle clubs.
Yeah. They
have an international leader. The Mongols, they have an international leader. But they've also all successfully been targeted for racketeering, the RICO charges. So we've got right now Jeff Pike, leader of the Banditos at one time. He's doing life for RICO. You've had Taco Bowman. He died in prison in 2019. I don't know who's in charge of the Mongols right now, but I know that they've had a lot of legal issues. They even lost their intellectual property to the government, and then somehow they got it back. I think a judge ruled it just wasn't going to fly, and they received their intellectual property control back.
Well, but you have chapter presidents.
You do have chapter presidents.
You were one at one point.
And there I was for 35 years.
So isn't that the same thing? Can't they just hit you with a RICO if you're
for
a
some
chapter
reason,
president?
They don't seem to think it's successful, and historically, it hasn't been successful. I think they've done a few RICOs here and there, but they always seem to unravel. But I think the last RICO, I think Diamond Danny was involved in a RICO. He's a longtime Hells Angel. Most of his tenure while I was in the club, he was in prison. He was always getting pulled up for something. I think he went down in the southern states, tried to create a stronghold down there, and he's since passed. I don't know what he died from, but he had federal charges. Were they actually racketeering charges? I don't know for a fact.
Well, haven't they referred to the Hells Angels as the Mafia on wheels?
Well, that's a good soundbite.
Yeah.
It's a great soundbite.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think you got these, these politicians and these prosecutors are all, career driven. And I think the Hells Angels makes good copy for them. I think in 1948, the San Francisco Chronicle went up to Hollister. They heard there was an event up there. It could get wild. It did get a little bit wild. I think they staged a lot of the stuff, a lot of the pictures and whatnot. But they put it out over the AP. All these different newspaper outlets picked it up, and they saw, hey, this wild biker deal sells papers. And, you had the booze fighters up there, the 13 Rebels, the Pooh Bobs, pissed off bastards, and who later branched off into the Hells Angels. But makes for good press. It builds careers. Look at Lynch in, Attorney General Lynch, 1965. He said, let's target the Hells Angels. And that's what may have prompted Hunter Thompson to have an interest in the Hells Angels. I really don't know. I've been on a TV show with Hunter. I don't think anybody gets to know Hunter Thompson well.
Didn't the Hells Angels beat up Hunter Thompson
They did.
badly?
Junkie George beat him up at Bass Lake. He interfered in a domestic dispute between Junkie George and his wife. George and him had words. He hit remember this from the book. He hit Junkie George slapped his wife, or perhaps hit her. The dog attacked George, and he kicked the dog. And Hunter Thompson made a comment: only punks kick dogs and hit women. And Junkie George beat him up. I think that Hunter Thompson's a smart guy. Was a smart guy, excellent writer. I don't think he had an ending for that book. So what does he do? He comes up with an ending. He insults Hell's Angel at the annual run at Bass Lake, gets his ass kicked, and what does he do? He shifts his support. You know what? The masses are right. These guys are animals, and that's how the book ends.
How badly did he get beat up?
Not that bad.
Not that bad.
He appeared on a television show with Skip from Oakland. I think Skip might have been an officer at the time. He may have been treasurer, secretary, sergeant at arms or something. But he appeared on a show, Hunter Thompson and Skip. You can find it on YouTube. Skip's riding around Hunter Thompson. He's on the stage. And what's really odd is the MC guy makes a comment about Junkie George beating up his wife, and the audience applauds, I mean, it's on there. It's pretty interesting little piece of history.
Well, you dealt with Stanley Tukey Williams, who was one of the founders of the Crips.
Well, I didn't know Stanley. I didn't know him personally, but I got involved with some rappers from L.A., and unbeknownst to me, they were tied in with Tukey. And, the reason I want to tell this story is because, we always get accused of being racist. The Hells Angels are racist. Well, the night Tukey was executed, I had several of these rappers from, Tukey followers at my house. We were hoping that Governor Schwarzenegger was going to at least stay the execution. And, we all were sitting around not the clubhouse, we were at my personal house. And, of course, the stay never came, and Tukey was executed. It was a real sad evening. I had even considered, I knew Schwarzenegger from before his political days when he was an actor. Mickey Rourke introduced me to him. And I resisted reaching out to the governor, and I'll tell you why. Mickey Rourke, myself, and Arnold Schwarzenegger had a picture taken together one night. We were in the back of Mickey's candy store. He had a candy store down there on Cannon. And the paparazzi took some pictures of us three standing together. And I went to one of the photographers that night. I said, I want to get a copy of that. And he said those copies are gone. Apparently Schwarzenegger had bought them all up. He was preparing to run for governor. And
Right.
there's
You don't
no
want
way
that
he was-
picture messing up his campaign.
He didn't want that
Yeah.
floating around. So, you know, I mean, were those guys my friends? Yeah, they were rappers. They were tied in with Tukey, and, you know, they were my friends. And, you know, the subject always comes up, you guys are racist. Well, you know what? No, we're not racist. Do we follow the prison color lines? You know, I stated it, you know, from the beginning when I learned about that. Yeah, that's been it. And that's what the Hells Angels have ascribed to for years, since Hells Angel members in the late 60s started going to prison. You know, in the early 60s, the late 50s, Hells Angels weren't much of a target. You know, they were these former military personnel returned from the Pacific Theater and the European Theater, probably suffering from undiagnosed PTSD and whatnot. They started grouping together in these little clubs. You know, the people on the East Coast say it started there. People on the West Coast, we say it started here. I remember seeing little groups of people from 1955 on. I was with my father standing on a street corner in San Fernando Valley, and somebody rode up on a chopper with a sleeveless vest. I don't know what it said on the back, but it really made an impression on me. And, you know, 10 years later, I walked into that world.
Well, the Hells Angels, was it your chapter that had an armory?
The Los Angeles chapter, and when I came around the club in the mid 70s, there was it was kind of on the cusp of the war with the Mongols.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, law enforcement has always said that the war started over the California rocker, that the Mongols donned the California bottom rocker, and we took exception to it. And that was just part of it. What had really happened was there was a ex-Richmond member who, his name was Chester Green. He testified against some Hells Angels in a murder up in the Bay Area. And instead of going into the witness protection program, he decided to hide in plain sight, and he joined the Mongols here in Southern California. So that created friction. What we had in Los Angeles was a garage in downtown LA. I don't remember the location exactly, but it was 2,000 pounds of dynamite in it.
2,000 pounds of
2,000
dynamite.
pounds, yes.
You could take down a high-rise building.
You
with that much
could
dynamite.
probably, if that was your intent, but they took out a shop. Guys built a bomb, put it in a tire, took it into the bike shop that was owned by the Mongols.
Right.
And,
I think like Timothy McVeigh, when he blew up the federal building, it was less than 2,000 pounds of explosives.
Yeah, well, they didn't use the complete 2,000 pounds in the bomb that they took into the frame up, but they used several sticks of dynamite, built a pressure release valve out of the valve stem of the tire, and as you release the valve stem, the contacts hit and, you know, exploded the bomb.
Right, because you also had...
2 people killed in that explosion.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So were Hells Angels convicted for that?
Yes.
Okay, and this was in your chapter?
Yes.
Okay, how did you not get tied into that?
Well, the informant never identified me in being involved in anything. You know, I mentioned Operation Rough Rider earlier. Brad Eaton was a Hells Angel that was knee-deep in that war with the Mongols, bombing things, shooting at people, along with other Hells Angels. And when the war kind of subsided after the initial conflict started, you know, there was 6 people murdered in 6 months. Brett went back east to New York. He got caught in New York in Operation Rough Rider in the mid-'80s, 84, 85, and they said, "You're going down for a long time." And I think he said something to the effect of, "How would you guys like to solve some murders in Southern California?" And, you know, he entered the witness protection program, identified Guy Castiglione as shooting Redbeard and Jingles on the Highway 15, killing them. And he identified Tom Heath, who was a member in Los Angeles. He wasn't a member when he took the bomb in. He was a prospective member. But identified him as the guy that carried the bomb into the frame-up. And, you know, it exploded and killed 2 people.
Well, you guys had an anti-tank gun?
We had a British anti-tank rifle. Why we needed it, I don't know. It was there when I came aboard.
How big were the bullets to this thing?
Well, I never, to be perfectly honest with you, I never fired it. I know they took it out to the desert and shot it off.
Right. I'm just saying the caliber got to be like what, like
had
6
to be
inches
over
long
50
or
caliber,
something?
so I don't know what it was. But it was a British anti-tank gun. It stood up on a tripod. It was as big as a car. It was sat in the middle of the armory.
Wow.
And with machine guns, a lathe. There was a lathe in there for building silencers.
I mean, you hear, for example, like the David Koresh situation.
Correct.
Where here's a guy in Texas who's building up this armory, which sounds like it's less than what you guys had. It sounds like he had some of the stuff that you guys had. He didn't have 2,000 pounds of dynamite. He didn't have an anti-tank gun. But, the feds showed up and tried to take his...
And a gunfight ensued.
And a gunfight where people died and everything else like that.
Agents were shot.
Agents were shot. Yeah, it was a whole... Kids
burned
died.
women and children up. I think that was the motivation for Timothy
I
McVeigh.
interviewed one of the agents that was on that case.
You interviewed one of the agents. And what did he think? And what did he say about it?
He said it was horrible. So it was a horrible situation.
We were it. The hostage rescue team for the FBI was the last backstop. It was there was nobody behind us. I mean, there was nothing else. So that's why we got that gig again. So I flew from Tucson at Waco. The team came in from Quantico. We all got together. We went out. We secured the compound. And 51 days later, it all went to hell.
So nobody ever told on you guys and said, hey, listen.
Well, yeah.
Here's my get out of jail free card. There's a damn arsenal in here.
Ray Glore, who had a short tenure as the Los Angeles president. Old Man John stepped down. Ray Glore took over. Ray Glore became a target. And Ray Glore got busted on a drug case. And Ray Glore, suspected of giving up the arsenal. He instructed 3 people to go over and empty the garage. Mm-hmm. They went over there, and as soon as they put the lock in the door, the cops swarmed on him. And the lawyers, we had a young lawyer at the time, Bruce Robertson, he's no longer alive. He had an interesting perception of what transpired, and he argued that they went into an empty garage because they had taken all the guns and dynamite out of the garage for public safety reasons. So the argument was these guys were walking into an empty garage. What's their state of mind? They may have had constructive possession. Constructive possession of an empty garage is not a crime. And one of the guys, they dropped all the charges on most of the guys. One guy pled guilty to owning a machine gun. They couldn't put the bombing onto Tom Heath till 1994. They finally caught up to him on that bombing of the frame-up.
Well, but didn't the president at the time get killed after that?
He did get killed. It's still unsolved.
Okay. You think that's because he cooperated?
Well, that's allegedly he cooperated, and, we don't know who killed him. Of course, according to law enforcement, it was a in-house murder. Remains unsolved.
So there was a case where it was considered the first internal murder of a Hells Angels member.
Stork?
This was Paul German in Gals.
What year?
1968. So a member of the Oakland chapter, previously been transferred from the Omaha chapter, was found guilty of burglarizing Sonny Barger's coin collection. And I guess there was a 6-man kangaroo court that got together and convicted the guy, and they forced him to ingest a bunch of drugs until he overdosed.
See, this
you know this story?
I know the story.
Okay.
See, this is the problem I have with that stuff. Where did they and how did they become privy to that information? It's somebody that has made their own deal and is somehow trying to extract himself from his own legal dilemma. So he tells them the story. Is that a true story? I think what people don't understand is people think that people sit around and talk about things that transpired. And, people don't do that. If somebody murdered somebody, they probably don't share it with anybody.
Right.
They keep it to themselves. I thought anytime I've been subjected to an indictment, just somebody's pulled it out of thin air.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Christie did this. Oh, Christie ordered me to do that. And they create this drama. You've got this gentleman, Ingalls, is that? I know he was from Omaha.
Yeah, Paul Ingalls, a.k.a. German.
Right. And then the next guy, I think, was Stork. Stork was supposed to testify against Sonny for something, and he wound up dead. And the police alleged that was a murder. I think he was shot. So you've got this history of these what they call in-house cleanings. It's like Harry the Horse. Same thing. Gary Robles, same thing. The 70s was a very precarious time to be an outlaw bike rider, and there was a lot of murders in the 70s. And, you can see that it's documented, but the truth is not documented. I mean, a lot of this is speculation by law enforcement officers, by informants, and whatnot.
Well, something that is documented was the murder of Cynthia Garcia by the Hells Angels in Arizona.
That was in 2001. And who was there? Who gave him the information?
I'm not sure, but I looked up the story and it's crazy.
Yeah, well, she came into the clubhouse allegedly.
Right. So she was a 44-year-old poor woman with 6 kids.
Drug addict.
Alcoholic.
Which doesn't mean that she should be...
No. She was...
I'm just telling the circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. She was... Okay, so basically a prospect was sent out to go scavenger hunt for some pussy.
Right.
That's what they said.
And that's who he brought back.
And that's what he brought back. I guess they wanted a different girl, but he couldn't find her, so he brought this woman back. And I guess she started to drink, and she started to talk trash.
She got mouthy.
Got mouthy with some of the angels. One of them grabbed her by the hair, said that we're not going to tolerate this in our own house. She kept doing it. He started to beat her. And then they just continued beating her until someone stabbed her in the chest 20 times. She was still alive. So they ended up taking her out to go get rid of the body, and they cut her head off.
Well, I'm not sure if she was decapitated. I think...
well, I guess... Okay, so here we go. So they tried to cut her head off, but the blade was too dull. So she was partially decapitated.
Right. I'm very familiar with this.
Right.
And the reason I'm familiar with it is because these are questions I asked Jay Dobbins when I interviewed Jay Dobbins on my show.
Yeah, he infiltrated the Hells Angels after one of these this situation and then the River Run Riot, which I want to talk about.
And we will talk about that. Yeah. And what I can't think of his name. Who was the main informant for that? His name's Mike. It's right at the tip of my tongue.
Hold on a second.
He became an informant for Jay, and just a real piece of work, this guy. And that's where I guess my position is that's where they get their information from.
Michael Kramer?
Michael Kramer.
There we go.
I remember coming back. I spent a year in isolation on a state racketeering case. The case collapsed under its own weight. 59 counts, they overcharged me. And Mike Kramer, before he was revealed as an informant, came up to me and he had a camera in his vest and certainly a microphone. He was asking me all types of provocative questions. But Mike Kramer's the driving force. Mike Kramer was actually in attendance at the murder, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have that information?
I mean, the whole thing is a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. The Hell's Angel that finally stood to answer. I don't think Mike Kramer, who was there, and later made some cavalier comment about a dull knife. Do you see that in your notes?
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing. They tried to saw Garcia's head off, but the blade on the knife was too dull. The corpse was then dumped to a shallow grave, and 3 angels drove back to Mesa.
But who?
And then they ended up burning up the car.
Who gave the information?
Kramer.
Kramer, exactly.
Yeah, Kramer called the police right afterwards. He was there when it happened.
Right. Well, I don't believe he called the police right afterwards.
He
I
called
believe
a couple days later.
I believe he got busted, and he cut a deal.
Oh,
I think if you were to have Jay Adams and I here, Jay Dobbins and I here together, I think Jay would acquiesce to that. I asked him that. And I said, "Didn't you guys abuse Kramer as a witness and informant?" I go, "You guys are willing to, make a deal with the devil," and that, that's the excuse they always say.
well, this is what he said.
Okay.
So they said,
And this is who?
This is Wikipedia.
And who says this?
Well, this is a section about Kramer cooperating.
Okay, but I want to know who is this Kramer's words or?
Well, you'll see as I read this.
Okay, all right.
So they said that Kramer developed a crisis of conscience after the murder. He told detectives that he had to remain. He decided to turn state's evidence because what happened in the desert was screwed up. The murder was screwed up. I didn't become an informant to make money or retaliate. I got a conscience. That's what he said.
Well, I find that very convenient for Mike Kramer to say. Look, do I think that?
Yeah. Okay, but here we go. So I guess what the lawyers said is that Kramer characterized himself as a somewhat passive participant in this whole event. He portrayed himself as having this big crisis of conscience. But the fact of the matter is he knew his ass was going to jail for the rest of his life, and he ratted first. He realized that somebody was going to rat, and so he was going to rat out first. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean,
so he wasn't an informant before, was he?
You ever heard the term "get down first"? Well,
that's what it is. Get down first.
That's an informant term. Well, he got down first. The guy wants to make a deal, and they go, "Sorry, your partner already made a deal." He got down first, and I think that's the circumstances here. Do I condone that type of behavior? Absolutely not. And I think that a senior member, when that girl came back to the clubhouse, and this isn't an excuse for that, because there's no excuse for murdering that woman, but somebody should have interceded and said, this woman needs to leave. Every Hell's Angel clubhouse across the United States, outlaws, banditos, Mongols, whoever they are, they send the prospects out when the bars close. Hey, go find some girls for us. And, it's up to the senior members, the people that want to take the responsibility of leadership to say, this person is not appropriate to be in here. And, poor judge of character. Maybe was Kramer the one that located her and brought her back to the clubhouse?
No.
Who brought her back? I don't remember that part of the story.
Kelby Randolph.
Okay, I don't know him. Yeah.
Just
right. And who was the stockbroker that ran away to South America and hid down there?
I think it was Argentina.
Yeah.
Eskeed,
yeah. And he's doing
let me see. It's
20 years, I think.
Let me see. Eskeed. Because it's a very complicated story. Merle Eskeed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, right.
That's who went to Argentina.
He was a stockbroker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He escaped.
He was down there hiding with the Hells Angels down there. So
in Buenos Aires.
Yes.
They found him living with his wife and son. They extradited him and sentenced him 19 years in prison for second-degree murder.
Yeah.
He's getting out in 2030.
Yeah. And look, I had the ATF and the feds. I don't know what agencies they were. I was in Cody, Wyoming, and we were under heavy surveillance. They had a Black Hawk helicopter there. They kept buzzing the camp, knocking everything down. They had the Black Hawk helicopter. Then in support of the Black Hawk helicopter, they had 7 or 8 other helicopters that I guess accompanied the Black Hawk to keep it running and whatnot. They kept pressing me at that. This is when the feds were perceiving me as the de facto leader of the club. And they had thought Sonny retired and I took over. They came to me and they wanted me to talk that individual. They knew he was hiding down in Argentina.
So you knew him?
Yeah, they wanted me to talk him into turning himself in. And I said, you know what? You guys have a job to do. It's not my job to talk him into turning himself in. I said, I don't want him to spend the next 50 years of every time he looks in the mirror, he sees George Christie's face and says, it's his fault I'm here. I think as a leader, if you want to survive in that world, you've interviewed a lot of people in the rap game and the organized crime game, or drug game, whatever it is, law enforcement. You have to be careful what you do, what you get yourself involved in. Certain things I felt were appropriate. Sometimes after the fact, what's the point? I'm certainly not going to talk somebody into turning himself in. I mean, what's the upside of it for me as a leader? Can you tell me that?
I mean, like, as a leader, though, let's just say I'm a full-fledged Hell's Angel, right? I got a patch and everything. You find out I'm cooperating.
Right.
And I'm around you guys. I've been around a lot of conversations talking about a bunch of stuff.
And we now know you're in.
And now you know that.
What do you think's going to happen?
You tell me. What would you do to me?
What do you think's going to happen? I mean, look, you want me to say it, but it's evident. It's the rules of the street. And everybody that gets into that lifestyle knows the dynamics. They know the parameters of the culture. So when I hear these guys, oh man, they tried to kill me. Taco sent a team. Taco, the leader of the Outlaws, sent a team to Ventura, not once, but twice, to kill me. After it was over with, Taco was in prison. Taco and I talked about it. And
Wait. So he told you he sent 2 hit squads to kill you?
Well, no, you look it up, Bowman versus...
it's in the paperwork.
United States versus Bowman. Yeah, he got convicted of it. The guy he sent to kill me flipped and ratted him out.
Okay, so now you're in prison with him?
No, I'm home. He's in prison. And you'll never guess why he called me.
Why?
He wanted my daughter to assist Henry Gonzalez, his lawyer, in his appeal. Because my daughter's a criminal lawyer.
Right. Okay, so now you're on the phone.
Now, what a set of balls on this guy.
Right. I mean, your daughter probably wouldn't have been born if he had succeeded, right?
And he told me, he told me, he goes, George, it wasn't personal. And I've got to be honest with you. My response to him was, I know that. I mean, that's the dynamics of that lifestyle. Is it the smartest lifestyle to have? No, but I'll tell you, it sure is exciting when you're doing it,
So what'd you tell him?
I said, I know it's not personal.
No, but did you refer your daughter?
I did, and she helped him. She helped Henry Gonzalez. His exact words to me were, hey, look, I know you just beat that 59-count state racketeering case. He goes, you keep beating these cases. He goes, maybe your daughter's onto something we're not seeing. He goes, would she be willing to talk to Henry Gonzalez on my appeal? And she did talk to Henry Gonzalez, and maybe she's someone you should get in her interview.
Okay. What happened with the appeal?
No luck.
No luck.
He died. He petitioned them for a compassionate leave. He was dying of cancer. And, they said, you're going to die here in prison. And he did,
Well, were you involved in the River Run Riot?
Well, no. I was on high-intensity probation at the time. And they wouldn't give me a travel pass. But I know all the players, and I was involved with David Chesnoff, the attorney, that pretty much led the charge with the defense team.
Okay, so let's talk about the River Run Riot. April 27th, 2002 in Laughlin, Nevada.
I think it actually was the 26th.
Was it 26th?
Well, it was my birthday, so I remember it well.
Right around that time, 2002. So the Mongols and the Hells Angels were both there. Now, was there some sort of friction because the Mongols were the only biker gang that were allowed to wear the California on their patches?
That had all been resolved. The Hells Angels weren't happy, but it was a situation that they'd been living in since living with since 1977. It's now 2002. The Hells Angels and the Mongols have a amnesty on the violence, if you will. They don't have a complete truce, and I'm going to take credit. I was responsible for nurturing that. Had a amnesty with the Outlaws that kind of unraveled. Same thing with the Banditos and the Mongols. The River Run comes up. Traditionally, the Mongols go to Harrah's. The Hells Angels go to the Flamingo. But there's a holdout. There's 6 Hells Angels from San Francisco that have been staying since the beginning of the River Run at Harrah's. And they have an arrangement with the Mongols that they will continue to stay there because they like it. So a police officer sees that there's 100 Mongols in the casino floor, and there's 6 Hells Angels kind of walking in and out, 4 Hells Angels, 5 Hells Angels. This somehow goes out over the radio traffic. Police officer, whether intentionally, by design, or just by coincidence, goes down to the Flamingo. He pulls up out front. There's a bunch of Hells Angels out there drinking, and he asks, is there anybody in leadership position here? One of the guys from the Bay Area walks up, who later got indicted, and the cop tells him, you know, you've got 6 Hells Angels surrounded by 100 Mongols down there. So the Hells Angels jump on their bikes, about 30 of them. They go down to Harris, and you know, the rest is history, as they say. Ray walks in there, kind of leads the charge. Ray's a Hells Angel from Sonoma. He's leading the charge. He walks in there, has words with one of the Mongols, kicks him in the chest, and no pun intended, but he kicks off the conflict again. And next thing you know, there's fighting. You can see Calvin, Hells Angel from Arizona, on the casino floor, you know, methodically firing his weapon. Have you seen the videos of it?
Oh, yeah.
That's Calvin, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the witnesses said it looked like Vikings on a battlefield.
And it probably did, and it probably felt like it. And, you know, you get the aroma of the rounds going off. It wasn't just Calvin firing rounds, but, you know, he was on camera doing it. There was other people shooting guns. 3 people wound up dead, 2 Hells Angels and a Mongol. And, you know, Roger Penny, the leader, was stabbed severely several times, spent about 6 days in the hospital, I don't know, you know, there's like 6 hours of tapes available.
Yeah.
And I've watched them all. David Chesnoff provided me with those. And, you know, at the end of the battle, Roger Penny, they actually put him in a chair with wheels on it. They wheel him out to a cab, and they take him to the hospital. He almost didn't survive.
Yeah, no, I went through the details. Hells Angel Cal Schaefer, he was swinging around a ball peen hammer at 2 Mongols, and then he pulled out a gun and started firing. He shot a Mongol, Richard Nolan. After he, you know, emptied a round, he started to reload. Someone else got shot. Hells Angel Rodney Cox had a crescent wrench. Was trying to help one of his friends, and then a couple Mongols came over, and he put the crescent wrench in someone's head.
Right in the back of their head.
Yeah, and then went back to helping his friend. So the leader of the Mongols at Harris, Roger Penny,
former Green Beret,
was surrounded by 2 Hells Angels who forced him to his knees, while Hells Angel Henry Leadham punched him in the face. The other Hells Angel, James
I think what's more appropriate to say is he was knocked to his knees. I don't think they forced him to his knees. I saw the video. They beat him up.
Because the other Hells Angel, James Hannigan, grabbed him by his hair and then stabbed him twice in the chest.
Right. I mean, what's your point? I mean, we know.
Yeah, no, it's a whole mess. Everyone's getting stabbed. Look, they said.
Look, I'm not trying to be cavalier.
Right. No,
I'm trying to be honest with you.
Every door in the place had blood trails.
I'm not surprised.
It was a complete bloodbath.
And what was the outcome? Do you know?
Okay, so at the end, a Mongol, Anthony Barrera, 43, was stabbed to death. 2 Hells Angels, Jeremy Bell, 27, and Robert Tumulty, 50, were shot to death.
Right.
The first time you had multiple murders in a Nevada casino.
Now, do you also know about Christo that was killed on the road leaving Laughlin that night?
No, this part I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another Hells Angel killed, unsolved.
What was interesting, though, I guess the Mongols were taking off their vests and stuffing them into garbage cans.
Well, I don't know.
Whereas they said all the Hells Angels kept their patches on.
Well, I would hope that they would.
The police found 14 guns, 107 knives, 2 hammers, 2 wrenches, and 9 flashlights abandoned on the floor at the casino. That doesn't include the stuff that people took with them. This is what they found on the floor of the casino.
Look, this is the thing. You know what our position was. You know, we explained the story. David Chesnoff. I may have some of the details incorrect. I mean, this is over 20 years ago. But our position was, if the police officer hadn't gone and said, you know, your brothers are surrounded at Harrah's, nobody would even went down there, because every year they stayed there. The 6 members from Frisco stayed there, however many there were there. The police officer, whether in good faith or whether trying to instigate, you know, we don't know. We'll never know that. I don't think the officer is going to come forward and identify himself as an instigator, and I wouldn't expect him to.
Right. Well, at the end, 7 Hells Angels and 7 Mongols were locked up.
For how long?
I don't think for very long.
No,
36 other people had their charges dismissed.
Yes.
And a guy named Frank Donahue was indicted after the incident.
But do you know why?
Captured for 6 years.
Do you know why they made a deal? Or did Jay explain that to you when you interviewed him? Because they didn't want to give up the Brady material, the discovery. They didn't want to give up the discovery because they were protecting other informants, I'm sure. And there was a lot of situations that were, you know, they were controversial, you know. Did the cops go outside the guidelines? Look, one of the positions that we argued was, why were all the Hells Angels bikes, the guns were left on the bikes? People didn't go there to try to engage. A couple of guys had guns on them. I don't know how many guns they confiscated from Hells Angels. Calvin had a gun. There was another guy they identified that had a gun. He got away. He came back after the whole case was resolved, like 3 years later, and said, "Oh, I heard you guys are looking for me." And, you know, nothing transpires. They didn't pick the case up. But is it the police officer's fault? I mean, we don't know. Everything's hypothetical. You know? If he hadn't have gone there, well, you know, if Grandpa, you know, wouldn't have had balls, he would have been Grandma. You know?
One of the things I remember, I read Sonny Barger's book back in the day, and I forgot which case he talked about, but he was saying how all the Hells Angels remained silent. Like, nobody cooperated, and they ended up dropping the entire case. And that's kind of what I felt the Hells Angels became known for. Like, when they all get arrested, they're not shooting against each other. Yeah, everyone shuts up. Yeah. Is that was really a thing from what you saw?
Well, yeah, but I mean, over the years, you know, it's not like it once was, you know, but it started, you know, Sonny can say whatever he wants. You know, Sonny and I butted heads for years. You know, there's a guy, I loved him part of the time, I hated him part of the time, and I'm sure he hated me most of the time. But, you know, it started with Baby Huey. George Weathering was a Oakland Hells Angel that testified when they were using his ranch as a burial ground. Remember, they were dropping bodies in the well up there? The 2 bikers came in from Texas or Georgia, and they were interested in becoming Hells Angels, and they partying at one of the clubhouses, taking LSD. We had a term back in those days. They were mud checking them, and to see, can these guys hang with us? Can they party with us? Are they Hells Angel material? It got out of hand. One of the guys got beat to death because they couldn't control him. He was freaking out on LSD. Somebody ordered the other guy to be murdered, his partner. There was 2 guys. There was one guy dead in the bathroom, and they go, what are we going to do with the other guy? And somebody made a decision and said, well, we got to get rid of him. And back before that, I mean, people weren't giving information. George Weathering gave information. He wrote a book, Fallen Angel, I believe. And it might interest you to read it. But slowly over the years, you know, you're looking at 4 or 5 years, you know, people go, I can do 4 or 5 years. When you sit somebody down and go, you're going to do 30 years for this, man, or you're going to do 40 years for this, they start reevaluating, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to die in prison? Is the club really worth it to me? I mean, they make excuses for themselves. And people coming into this lifestyle have to know there are consequences with living like this.
Well, I interviewed Charles Pee Wee Goldsmith.
Sure, Pee Wee.
Yeah, former president
of Las Vegas.
Right. Hells Angels. And he said some interesting stories. He said there was a story where someone walked up to Sonny Barger and they gave him a photo of the two of you together.
Right.
Sonny took the photo and ripped it in half.
A guy walked into the shop, Sonny's sitting there next to me. And he says, "Oh my God, I was always wondering when you were going to be here. I took this picture like in the 80s, it was like 1987. And it was Sonny and George, and they had their arm around each other like this, and they were standing below that Sturgis sign that's up on the hill. Mm-hmm. And it was like an 8x10. And the guy goes, 'Here, man, I've been holding on to this for you. I want you to have it.' And he handed it to him. And Sonny grabbed it, and he looked at it, and he went, whoosh, he ripped it in half, and he tore up the section with George and threw it in the garbage. He goes, 'Thanks,' and walked away."
Not surprised.
You know about the story?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real story?
Real story.
Okay.
As far as I know, I mean, Pee Wee told me, I mean, look, I know how Sonny felt about me. You know, sometimes he loved me, sometimes he hated me. And, you know, I've got a new book coming out, Crossing the Rubicon. And the whole book was prompted because I got a phone call from a member. Now, the members aren't allowed to talk to me. And I'm blackballed, if you will. I'm out bad. You get caught interacting with me, you're subject to expulsion from the club. I got a phone call and said, if you're going to resolve this thing with Sonny, you need to do it tonight because he's not going to be around much longer. He died in the morning. Well, that night, I got up and I started thinking about Sonny. I thought about, you know, should I try to reconcile with the guy? And I'm not going to get into it because the whole book kind of is a chronological journey. It's not about my personal life. It's all about the Hells Angels and interacting as a leader in the Hells Angels and what transpired in the Hells Angels. And I don't compromise anybody. No one's going to jail behind this book. Everybody's dead, Vlad.
Right. Well, you ended up not talking to Sonny.
No, I did not.
And he died the next day?
He died the next day.
Do you regret that at all?
I have mixed emotions about it.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, you know, could I have resolved it with Ralph? I don't know. My last conversation with Ralph, I'll break it down for you. I can't think of his name. He's an author. He wrote Angels of Death. He's from Canada. He's a Canadian author. And Sonny and I both got permission from the club for him to interview us. And he interviewed us for this book, Angels of Death. And
William Marston?
No, the other guy.
Julian Scheer?
Julian Scheer.
Okay.
Yeah, Julian came to my house and he came to Sonny's house.
Okay.
And when the book came out, Sonny took exception to something that was written in the book. And it was just like one sentence. George Christie, the longest serving president in the Hells Angels history. And he did not like that. And he called me on the phone and he said, "You know what, man? You want me to imitate him? You know what, man? You've been president too long." And I just said, "Well, what's that got to do with you?" And he said, "You know, I think you've been president too long and you need to step down."
Well, wasn't he the longest running president, though?
He wasn't a president. He had actually, people don't realize this, Sonny had not held an office since 1982 when he got cancer. Did he hold a de facto position as a leader? Absolutely. For years and years, he was the voice and the face of the Hells Angels. He took the power from Southern California and brought it to Oakland and made the Hells Angels almost like his own brand, if you will.
Yeah.
And my thought was, one man didn't build this club. It was built by many men. And I wasn't afraid to let Sonny know how I felt about that. And I always told him with the due respect. But on that phone conversation, he said, "I'm going to tell you something else." He goes, "I think you're a liar and I think you're a cheat." Now, I don't know where he came up with that, but I said, well, you know what I think, Sonny? I think what you think doesn't matter anymore. And he slammed the phone down. And like a couple of kids, I hit redial, and I called him back, and I said, Ralph, I think we got cut off. And he goes, no, I hung, and I slammed the phone down on him. And that was my last conversation with Sonny. Now, people came to me as emissaries. Hey, I got a message from, I mean, it was ridiculous. I got a message from Sonny. Hoover called me. He was kind of, Hoover's president of Cave Creek. He was kind of Sonny's prodigy, understudy, if you will. He was murdered. Still remains unsolved. He used to call me, and as a smartass, when I got done talking to Hoover, I say, is there anything else Ralph wants? That's what we called Sonny. We called him Ralph. And I would always laugh, and Hoover would laugh. And I mean, it was kind of an open joke. I mean, from probably 2003 or 4, whenever that book came out, within months, we just continued communicating.
Well, according to Pee Wee, the beef between you and Sonny Barger was because you had dated Sonny's wife before he married her?
I never dated Sonny's wife. Okay. Sonny's wife worked for me.
Okay. You know the story, though.
I do know the story. Okay. Sonny's wife worked for me at the Ink House for many years. We got busted in 2001, and when the police reports came back, there was something in the police report that alarmed me. I had given Sonny's wife, Zorana Kazakian was her name at the time. I had given her a telephone. You know what a chip phone is? I gave her a chip phone, and I said, do not receive any calls on this. Only call out if you get in a jam, you know. And when the police report came out, they had raided the Ink House, my tattoo shop, and they had the conversation. They asked Z where she got the phone from. Where did you get this chip phone? And she was, George Christie gave me that chip phone. And I took that paperwork to Sonny, and, you know, Sonny didn't want to believe it. He said, I don't care what that cop said. She's no informant. I said, well, Sonny, nobody knew about that phone but Zorana and myself. Where in the hell did the cop come up with this idea to write it in the police report? I 86'd her. Well, I let her go, 86'd her from the club. She went to Sonny to complain, and he fell in love with her and married her.
Well, Pee Wee told a story about a situation between Sonny and, I believe, that same wife that you're talking about.
No, that's Noelle you're going to talk about.
Okay. There's a different wife?
That's a different wife.
Okay. So there's a story between Sonny Barger and his wife at the time. I guess they got into some sort of domestic dispute.
They did. And do you want to know what it was about?
You?
No. No. For the one time, I'm completely telling you I'm innocent.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Noelle and Sonny were having problems. Their marriage was unraveling. Sonny had a woman on the back of his bike. Noelle started chasing him and trying to run him off the road.
Okay.
And he rode back to the ranch. I don't know if he got rid of the girl or what the deal was. He came back to the ranch. Him and Noelle got in a physical confrontation. He threw her on the ground, and she said she couldn't move. She broke her back, or she hurt her back. Sonny called 911, which I know there's a lot of controversy about this. I'm a fan, Vlad. I watch your show. I saw what Pee Wee said. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But let me tell you what happened. Sonny got on the phone. He should have said, my wife needs an ambulance, and hung up. He stayed on the phone. The call was 20 minutes. I have the recording of the call. I have a complete recording. And that's a story in itself, how I wound up with that, why I wound up with that, and what he did when he found out I had that. That's a story I haven't told. But he stayed on the phone. The police get on the phone. The medical call has now ended. It's now a police call. Are either of you high? Well, I'm not. Okay, that's strike number one, but it's gray, you know. Do either one of you have a weapon? Well, she has one in the car, but I don't have one. Okay, that's bad. You can't do that as a Hell's Angel. You know, you made a comment earlier about keeping your mouth shut. You don't say things. What was this whole thing about? Well, I don't know. She tried to run me off the road. That's a serious thing. And if you look on my social media on Facebook, I put the 911 call up a couple of weeks ago because my book's getting ready to come out, Rubicon. And I know there's going to be controversy. There's people that say he never made the call and you're making this up. And I wanted to remind the public out there that it did happen.
Hi, my name is Ralph Parker. And what's going on there? My wife is paralyzed down the road. Because she's paralyzed and can't move? Yes, she did the ambulance. Okay, you say she was in an altercation and now you say she's paralyzed? Yes. Okay, sir, do you guys have any weapons there? Yes, just in the car. Are you guys in the car right now? No, we're outside the car. Okay, we're outside the car, but there's a pistol inside the car? I believe so.
So, what transpired from all that? Sonny got arrested, charged with a felon in possession of a gun. I have the court, I should have brought him today. I have the transcripts of the court proceeding. They play the 911 tape. It's part of the court transcripts. And something gets revealed in the middle of the court proceeding.
What's that?
Noelle Barger works for the FBI and receives $1,000 a week.
She was an informant.
She was an informant.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was married to an informant.
He was married to an informant. And my position is his fourth wife and final wife before he died, was she a full-on informant? Well, I don't know. I know she talked to the cops because they knew about that phone. They knew that I had given her a chip phone. Is that a serious offense? No, but it could lead up to something bigger. Cooperate once, you're going to cooperate again, perhaps.
Okay, so was Sonny pushed out of the Hells Angels after that, or?
No.
No.
They turned their a blind eye. That was kind of the beginning of the end for me. When I saw that I had known members that got kicked out for calling 911. We had a member in the 80s that somebody stole his car, and he reported it, and the guys got caught, and they got sentenced and convicted for grand theft auto. The guy got kicked out of the club just trying to recover his car.
Right, but what do you do, though? If you have insurance, you have to have a police report.
Yeah, if you get in an accident.
What's the point of even having insurance at that point? If you're a Hell's Angel, you might as well not even have it.
It was very controversial posture. My son, when my wife, ex-wife Cheryl died, her brainstem pushed into her spine, causing a massive stroke, and she died. My son found her the morning. She didn't answer. He went over to the house. He called 911. There were people saying, well, he should get kicked out of the club.
Your son was a Hell's Angel at the time?
He was, yeah. He should get kicked out of the club, and I argue that's ridiculous. He called for an ambulance. And then, of course, Sonny said, well, you did that to me. I said, yeah, there are different circumstances. And that's when Sonny started saying that I lied about the transcripts. There was somebody, I was a West Coast chairman for years. Before I was the West Coast chairman, Sonny Barger held that position. He was the West Coast chairman. And that puts you in a powerful de facto position because you give everybody the, I don't want to say illusion, but you give everybody the perception you're in charge. You're controlling the West Coast meetings. Somebody took my place, Papa, and when Sonny started saying that I made up the transcripts, Papa said to me, can you get the 911 tape? And I used my daughter's law office to obtain the 911 tape. I got the tape, I turned it over to Papa, and Papa confronted Sonny. Of course, he said he didn't do anything wrong. And basically the club turned a blind eye because it was Sonny Barger that broke the rule. Fair? Perhaps, maybe.
No, look, I interviewed a regular on my show, Tony Yayo, a street guy who's down 50 Cent. and he was talking about a situation where his dad was having like a heart attack, and he just paused because he didn't want to call 911. But there were other family members in the house that grabbed the phone and was like, but he had this thing where he just would not call 911. And even in a bad situation where his dad is dying, he kind of stopped for a second.
You know, as us coming up in the hood, we was allergic to them 3 numbers.
Yeah.
My father lives with me. You know, he had heart attacks, and I really didn't want to even dial 911. It's done, you know, somebody in the house did it, but I'm just.
I think eventually he would have done it, but still, there's this aversion to calling 911.
Well, you know, I've been out of the club since 2011, and I have not called 911 for anything. I don't think it's something in my. This wasn't the way I was raised, you know. I came from a Greek immigrant family. They used to resolve everything within that Greek community at the HEPA meeting, which was the meeting for the men, and the Daughters of Penelope was the meeting for the women. And somewhat like a church thing. If you had a problem, like a lot of churches, they deal with it in the house, whatever it may be. Is that right? Perhaps not by the standards of law, but morally, maybe the law of religion holds a higher setting than a judicial law. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could get in an argument about this stuff and argue it forever, you know?
Well, when it comes to the Hells Angels, they're known as a 1% club, right? And a 1%er is considered, like, from what I understand,
outside the law.
Yeah. So 99% of the the biker clubs are regular guys that just want to ride, but the 1%ers are outside the law.
Right.
Right. So they're already taking that stance. What percent of Hells Angels are actually engaging in crimes? If you were just to eyeball it.
Well, and this may sound off the wall to you, I think the record speaks for itself, because these guys don't get away with this shit. Somebody always gets busted, and someone always gives it up. I've been told on so many times that you sit in the meeting room and you look around the room, who's going to be the next guy that flips on us? And I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, are the guys getting away with stuff? Perhaps.
Right. You know? But how many of the guys are just really like, look, I like the guys in the club, I like the culture, I like the look, but I'm not doing any crimes at all. If the other guys are involved in it, I'm not involved at all. Or is it like, once you're part of the Hells Angels, you have to be involved in certain things?
This is what I'm going to tell you. The club is not a criminal organization.
Okay.
I've said that for years.
Right.
But there are criminals within the organization, like there may be in the Senate, in the legal system, in Congress.
A little different.
Well,
it's a little different.
It may be from you sitting over there.
Congress guys are constantly going to prison on felonies and stuff like that. Yeah, every so often something happens.
And why do you think that is?
Right, because they could cover for themselves. But what I'm saying is,
look, we got to, and I'm not endorsing him. I'm not condemning him. You got a president, 34 felonies. We elected a president of the United States with 34 felonies.
Right.
Okay? I mean, what does that say about us as a culture? I don't think the American public gives a shit anymore if you're a felon. Right. I'm a multiple felon.
No, listen, I'm not making judgments here.
I don't.
It is what it is. I've got close friends that have killed people before and are ex-felons and so forth. It is what it is.
Vlad, you are making a judgment. You're saying that Congress isn't that way. How often do these guys inside trade?
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
How often do these guys have 2,000 pounds of dynamite in an anti-tank gun in their basement?
Look, is war only appropriate when your government tells you? Tell that to Ukraine. I mean, look what's going on over there.
Listen, I get it. There's some gray area.
And that's wrong.
Okay.
You know, I think what Russia's doing is wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it.
I'm Ukrainian, so yeah.
I know. I would hope that you would stand.
I don't agree with it. I've spoken out against it.
But look, let's be honest. There was at one time, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm probably going to piss some people off out there. There was a period of time when the guys committing crimes were were very limited. They were very small. It was a small group of guys that knew how to make crank, a small group of guys that controlled that stuff. You know, the best customers for Hell's Angels are people outside the club, because the club can't intercede and get involved if there's a dispute or a dilemma.
Yeah.
So it's better for people to work outside the club. But at one time, the
wait, hold on. Let me stop you there. What do you mean they can't intervene? So let's just say one Hell's Angel rips off another one.
Well, they're going to take it to the leaders of the charter.
Right. So the president can come in and intercede, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They say, hey, we want to sit down, which maybe, you know, people go, oh, they are like the mafia. Well, you know, in a sense, you know, we had a lot of sit downs in the Ventura Clubhouse between members. We also had a lot of sit downs for people in the community that had beefs. And, you know, we used to just piss the cops off. The old cops didn't give a shit. The old cops said, hey, let the fucking Hell's Angels handle the streets. It's less work for us. The young cops were offended by it. You know, they said they should keep their nose out of it. We put a moratorium on the street gangs up in Ventura from shooting against each other. The old cops thought it was the best thing in the world, man. That's really great. You guys are getting community-minded, which I thought was kind of funny hearing that from them. The young cops said, fucking Christie needs to keep him and his boys' nose out of our business. They saw it as their business. And, you know, I pissed a lot of those young guys off because my response to them would be, well, do your job then.
Well, you have the Hell's Angels, and then you have the Filthy Few.
Okay.
What is the difference?
Well, the Filthy Few was I testify as an expert witness I'm recognized as an expert witness for the defense, and I just got into this argument in a courtroom. The Filthy Few were initially the first to arrive and the last to leave. Okay, the Southern California, that was the Northern California charters. The rivalry between the North and the South was unbelievable between the Hells Angels. It was in good fun. Sometimes it got a little bit serious. The Southern California Hells Angels started what they called the Raggedy Wranglers. That was the answer to the Filthy Few. Now, somehow, the Filthy Few has morphed into an urban legend. And the urban legend is anybody in the Hells Angels that wears a Filthy Few patch has killed somebody at the behest of the club.
Right.
My question I impose to you is, where are all the bodies? I mean, every Hells Angel in the United States wears a Filthy Few patch now. Where are the bodies? Where are these bodies are buried? If every Hells Angel, if you got 15 Hells Angels in a town, in a city, and every one of them, or at least 12 of them, are wearing the Filthy Few patch, where are the bodies? Where are the murders? Where are the reported missing persons?
Okay, what is the DeQualo patch?
DeQualo means you got in a fight with a police officer.
Okay, violence against the police.
Yes.
Then there's...
And I've only initially, when I was in the club, Cisco Valderrama had one. A couple of the East Coast guys had them. Their names escape me. And Papa from Frisco had a DeQualo patch. He got in a fight with the cops at Laconia and went to prison for 18 months for it.
Then there's the ball peen hammer patch. Or the
well, pin. You know, have you seen Hell's Angels Forever?
No.
You should watch that movie. In that movie, there's the guy, the Beast from the East, Big Vinny, gets a birthday present, and it's a ball peen hammer. Mm-hmm. Well, all these new young guys, they get in the club, they want to emulate the Beast from the East, Big Vinny. Big Vinny was at the Polish Women's Hall. Are you familiar with that confrontation with the breed?
No.
There was 100 breed there, and there was maybe 30 Hells Angels, and they fought it out on the floor of the bike show, and 5 breed got killed, 1 Hells Angel got killed. It was a bloody mess. I write about it in my new book. But he carried a ball peen hammer. So all the young guys want to carry a ball peen hammer. They want to wear a ball peen hammer pin on their patch. And, you know, my daughter as a lawyer advised, we hosted a big party in Ventura, the 50-year anniversary for the Hells Angels. And my daughter advised me to tell the members not to wear the hammer patch in town. And a lot of people told me I was overreacting. People got beef that weekend for wearing the hammer insignia and for carrying a ball peen hammer in their back pocket.
What is a Red Wing?
Those are provocative sexual acts. I mean,
okay.
Do you really want to get into that?
Yeah, the Red Wing is an interesting one, though.
The what?
The Red Wing.
Ministrating on their, eating a girl out when she's ministrating.
Yes.
Yes.
Eating a girl out on her period.
Right.
So I guess you have to show up and show another member that this actually
you
happened.
have to be observed by 2 members.
By 2 members.
You'll notice there's no pictures of me with wings on any of my patches.
I would hope not.
Did you hear that, Beverly?
So 2 members have to see you eating out a girl on her period.
Right.
So as you come up off of that with blood all over your face, they say, congratulations, you get a Red Wing.
Correct.
Okay. At some point, do you look at this rule and say, this is a little silly here?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, you should get into the other wings if you want to talk.
What are the other wings?
The
Tell
black
me.
wings, a black partner.
Okay. Is that
a broken wing?
Hold on. So, okay, the black wing, that's if you have sex with a black woman.
Yes.
That's considered a thing? That's like taboo?
Yeah, it was like a wing you could get.
Okay, so, yeah, because I remember, I think I remember in Sonny Barger's book, someone got a black wing and a red wing at the same time by eating out a black girl on her period.
Well, it's very possible.
Yes.
You got him on a technicality.
A double wing.
But, you know, there's the blue wing.
What's that?
That's broken.
What is that?
A woman missing a limb.
You know people with blue wings.
Yeah, I do.
You do? Okay.
I did. Well, I did. I mean, they're dead now, you know.
Okay.
I think Dirty Dick had a broken wing.
Of course he did.
He had a red wing. He had a brown wing.
Yeah, he earned his name. I see. Wait, the brown wing is what, anal?
Yes.
Okay.
With a little circle. You getting what you want?
Yeah, no, I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
Look, you know, a lot of that stuff was shock value. You know, look, my dad was a CB. He came back from his tenure as a World War II veteran with Japanese regalia. Other people in the European theater, they came back with the German regalia. Mm-hmm. You know, people say, why were people wearing that Nazi stuff? The Nazi stuff was a lot more popular than the Japanese stuff. Shock value. And, you know, I find it just amazing when people seem to be naive to the term spoils of war. I mean, what did the Roman soldiers do when they took over? Look at Alexander the Great. I mean, he just pillaged, you know, through country, and they take these people's belongings. And that's where all that Nazi stuff started. These people came back from World War II with these different things they took. The Nazis, the SS claimed to be the best, right? That's what they claimed.
Right. And some
who
Hells Angels wore SS.
And who
patches.
kicked their ass?
America.
That's right. And that was the message. And I think a lot of people misinterpreted that. Why were guys kissing each other in public? To get people to freak out. Look at these guys, they're animals, you know. Was there any homosexual experiences going on? Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so what if you had a gay Hells Angels member?
Well, I'm sure I've heard somebody wrote me.
Because you know there were some gay members.
I'm sure
you have enough men.
I'm sure
some of them are going to be secretly.
But does that mean that they were out of the closet, if you will?
Oh yeah,
of course not.
I can just imagine the Hells Angels with little sparkly things on it, and some rainbow patches in the back.
Look,
it would be quite a sight. A gay Hells Angels.
But I will tell you this: you know, people in prison got passes.
Who were gay?
No, that had homosexual activities with people.
Who were Hells Angels?
Yeah. I know guys that in San Quentin in the 60s and 70s that got oral sex from people in there. When the first time I got arrested was 1986. I have a federal number that sticks with you for life. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
You know that. Okay, that's my prison ID number.
Yeah.
When I got arrested and went to prison in 2013 or 2014, I went to Texas. When I got there, I had some of the older lifer guys that were doing life come up to me and ask me, man, you've been down since 1986? They could tell by the numbers. And they asked me, they go, you want us to hook you up with anybody? And I go, no, that's all right, man. I'm just going to be here on a short visit.
So here you are, you're the president of Hell's Angels in Los Angeles. One of the members approaches you and says, listen, I have something to tell you. I'm actually gay.
Okay.
I'm secretly gay. I'm not flamboyant, but yes, I have sex with men, privately.
Right.
What do you do at that point?
What do? I mind my own business.
So
look,
you don't kick that member out?
What's it got to do with me? How does it affect me?
I don't know. But what if he gets out?
Gets out, it's on him.
Okay, so it gets out. Now everyone in the club knows that there's a gay.
What do they say to me?
I don't know. What do they say to you? What are you going to do?
Why didn't you tell us? And what do I say to them? I'm no fucking rat. Right?
That's how it works?
That's what
okay.
I would say.
All right, but at this point, it's out. Everyone in the club knows that Fred is gay, right? So what do you do with Fred? Do you allow him to stay in the club, or does he get kicked out?
Let me tell you, I just received I have a pretty big social media following. I get messages all the time, all day long, from people want to be Hell's Angels, people profess to be Hell's Angels that aren't supposed to talk to me. Whether they're Hell's Angels or not, I don't know. I don't follow up on it. It's not that important to me. Mm-hmm. And I recently got a message from somebody that told me there was a gay Hell's Angel in Europe, and he was openly gay, and he was really offended by it. Mm-hmm. And I wrote him. I said, "How does this affect you?" I never got an answer. Mm. I mean, apparently, it just offended him. Maybe. I don't know. Was he having erotic thoughts about the guy? I don't know. I'm being a smart ass now.
Yeah, no, listen, I don't know either. Personally, I don't really care. It's just interesting.
There you go.
But for example, like gay mafia members, like that's kind of a no-no. Like I've heard stories of people getting killed for being gay in the mafia.
Exactly.
And so forth.
I have as well.
Yeah.
And would somebody take it upon themselves to shoot somebody in the head if they found out their brother was gay after 10, 15 years? I don't know. Yeah. You don't know. What people do in the privacy of their own home doesn't affect me, Vlad. Yeah. I don't care. Sure. It's like I haven't come this far in life. I'm going to be 80 here pretty soon. I haven't come this far in life to worry about whether this guy or that guy is gay.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, I interviewed Chuck Zito.
I know.
You know him also?
I do know Chuck.
Yeah.
And, Chuck was put in what I figure and feel was an awkward position. Chuck was estranged from me because of Sonny's order. Anybody caught hanging out with me, talking to me, is going to be expelled from the club, or their posture or position, how the club saw them or identified them could change. Chuck could have went from out good to out bad. And
right, he was the VP of the Hells Angels in New York.
Well, yeah, and I think he might have been a president up at Rock City for a while.
Okay.
It's been a long time. I've known Chuck since 1980. Chuck introduced me to Mickey Rourke.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Didn't he beat up Mickey Rourke at one point?
Well, I've been hearing things. But Chuck beats everybody up.
Right. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah,
a few other people too.
Yeah, but Van Damme was in the scores talking shit. And I don't know if Chuck discussed it with you.
Yeah, we talked about it.
And I was at Scores one night with, just having dinner. And he came walking in with Mickey Rourke and like 5 guys. And that's how that thing happened,
Yeah, well, he allegedly told one of the bouncers that you have no heart.
Yeah.
And the bouncer relayed that information to you. So you confronted him with that.
Yeah.
And he admitted to it. He goes, yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
It didn't go well for him,
Right.
And did he tell you how he found out Van Damme was talking shit?
I don't remember the exact story.
One of the waiters came up to Chuck. Chuck got up to go to the bathroom, and I guess while Chuck was gone, Van Damme started talking shit about Chuck, and one of the people told him. Chuck came back and said, "Did you say this?" And I guess you got to give Van Damme props. He said, "Yeah, I did." And Chuck hit him, and I guess he knocked him out. Chuck's a big guy. He's a tough guy.
No, he is.
He's a street fighter.
So you guys don't talk anymore at all?
Well, actually, I ran into Chuck at Michael Madsen's memorial, and I'm not going to say what we talked about, but we had. I'll tell you, I felt really good when I left there. It was great seeing him. We talked about all the bullshit rumors that he ratted on somebody. I don't know if you've heard those rumors. I don't believe that shit.
I haven't heard that, by the way.
Well, I have, and I'll tell you something. On the record, I will tell you that when Chuck was in jail, nobody got caught up in. They said that he did it after he got sentenced, and he was doing his time. That he gave information to get out of doing some time. That's bullshit. I don't believe it. Nobody got busted. Nobody got hurt by Chuck Zito.
Well, I guess Chuck was involved in the Vanderbilt brawl with the pagans.
Yeah.
And
wasn't there.
You weren't there.
I was not there.
But Chuck was there.
I think he was.
Yeah.
What year?
This was 2002.
It must have been right before he left or right after he left.
Yeah, 75 bikers clashed that day.
Right.
One of the pagans died.
Okay.
A lot of injuries. 73 pagans got charged, as well as one Hell's Angel.
Who was a Hell's Angel? Do you have a name?
I'm not sure. But they're saying that this was sort of a big deal in terms of the feud between the pagans and the Hell's Angels.
Well, the Hell's Angels and the pagans have been at odds since the beginning. I forget Lou's last name. The guy that started the pagans had this attitude that, we're from the East Coast. The Hell's Angels are from the West Coast. The East Coast is ours. Fuck the Hell's Angels. And, I've got to tell you, Sonny's attitude, he didn't like anybody. I tried to get him to come to a meeting with the Banditos, with Bandito leader George Weggers. I said, Ralph, let's go to this meeting. I said, you have no idea what it would do to bring you into the meeting with me. The way they perceive you, it'd be like a royalty coming into the meeting. And he said, well, let me think about it. And this was during the meeting. I said it publicly. And at the end of the meeting, I said, what do you think, Ralph? And he goes, you know what? Fuck those guys. And I said, what's the problem? He goes, I just don't fucking like them. And that was his attitude. So did he have a problem with Lou from the pagans, the founding father? I don't know if he started it, if Lou started it. I don't know. But it's a lasting problem. The pagans are now, they're all over the United States. They were isolated in the Philadelphia area at one time on the East Coast. They seem to be everywhere now.
Well, after you left the Hell's Angels, some people consider that you went bad, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, there's people. Sonny started rumors that I testified at a grand jury.
So, have any Hell's Angels ever approached you?
No.
Over that?
No.
Never. Okay. Are they required to approach you if they ever run into you? Like, how does it work in that organization?
I have ran into Hell's Angels in Spain.
Okay.
They stayed on, the streets are very narrow in Spain, but they stayed on their side of the street and I stayed on mine. And, nobody walked away intentionally. I got a nod from one guy. I got a encounter from one individual by himself. And I'm not sure if he would have been with other club members, if he would have had the same, he was very excited to see me, put his arm around me. I have a picture of him. He took a picture of us together. And I said, you could get in trouble for that. And you know what he responded to me? I don't take my orders from fucking Sonny Barger.
Huh.
And that, am I embellishing or making that up? No. I was in Spain. I hung out with a club over there called the Unknowns. And I met a bunch of banditos over there who I've, still have a relationship with. I talk to the banditos on occasion. Look, if I ran into a bunch of Hell's Angels, I'm sure they would not be happy to see me. But, as far as what their posture is. I mean, what benefit do they get jumping on an old man, you know?
Well, final question before I let you go.
Okay.
And you'll interview me, actually.
Yeah, I do want to interview you.
So I just interviewed this guy recently named Abdul Robinson Sr. He is the father of a rapper in Jacksonville, Florida named Queso. And we had talked about the situation ahead of time where basically Queso was involved in a murder. Some of the guys involved with Queso had called him up after they had ran into a house and taken an old woman hostage. Not knowing what he was walking into, he went to go help him out, only to find out a murder and a hostage situation had just occurred. He helped them get away, change clothes, change cars, and ultimately he was charged with accessory after the fact to murder. And what makes this story really crazy was that he ended up cooperating and had to take the stand ultimately against his own son, where he said, yes, this is my son in this video, and my son has a beef with these guys, and here's the motive, and so forth. And ultimately, his son got life without parole, and he got time served. He's out now. He did his first interview with me yesterday. What is your take on a situation like this? If being a Hell's Angel while you're still active, one of your kids calls you up, and when you go pick them up, they tell you a murder and a hostage situation just occurred, what do you do at that moment?
Well, you have a crisis of conscience. Are you going to help your son, your family member? Apparently, I think the outcome's not good in this one.
Yeah.
And he becomes a witness for the government.
Yeah, he takes a stand.
He takes a stand.
Yes.
So now he's an informant.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that he has to live with. It's, you know, I interviewed Jay Adams. Excuse me, I keep calling him Jay Adams. We had a member called Jay Adams.
Jay Dobbin?
Jay Dobbins.
Yeah.
You know, got a lot of hell from people for that. You fucking talking to the cops. And no, you know, Jay wasn't a rat. Jay took an oath. Jay took on a assignment.
Yeah. Jay was an undercover who infiltrated the Hells Angels.
And,
were you around Jay ever?
Yeah,
oh, so you knew Jay, not knowing he was.
Well, I knew, and I didn't like
feds.
This is nothing personal to Jay. I didn't like what I heard. Jay was passing around a picture, and then I'll get back on this other question. But Jay was passing around a picture of who he said was a dead Mongol. And,
yeah, right. We talked about this.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw the picture, the person that showed me the picture, I looked at him and I said, how many pictures have you taken of someone you've killed? I go, this guy, something's not right. I go, this is wrong, and if it's not wrong, someone needs to tell him it's wrong.
Huh.
And from that point on, I had no interaction. I met Jay in Ventura on the 50th anniversary, and I believe Sonny Barger introduced me to him, and that may just be me wanting to think that, but I think he did, as I recall correctly. But, you know, look, that guy made a decision. He testified against his own son. Why did he testify against him? That's my first question.
Well, the reason why he testified against him, he gave
was it a moral thing?
He gave a couple of reasons. Number one, he had two young kids. He had just had two kids that were 1 and 2 years old at the time, and he had like 9 kids at the time. He felt he needed to be there for his kids to help raise them.
How old is this guy?
He's 50.
50. And how old is the kid?
The one who did the shooting?
Yeah.
Early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. Early 20s. So, you know, he was in prison for 11 years, and he comes out, and his kids are all wild.
Right.
Are out shooting, you know.
Gangsters. Yeah.
You know, and at that point, he could just do what he could do. So his whole thing was, well, I had 2 kids that I have to raise, and if I go to prison for the rest of my life, no one's going to be there for them. He also said that at no point did his son ever step up, because here's the situation, right? And he talked about it. He said he was actually told that this was an offer on the table. His son could have taken 30 years and taken his dad off the case. But instead, he went to trial. So he felt a little bit betrayed that his son didn't ultimately, because there was overwhelming evidence. There was surveillance footage, people's DNA, and then one of the guys that was involved, the getaway driver, cooperated against everybody who was actually there. So it was overwhelming evidence, and he felt that his son should have just taken the plea deal and let his dad off the case, but his son instead took it all the way to court and ended up blowing trial.
You know, there's a lot of, I don't know if this guy was tipped up with anybody, any, street crews or whatever, but, there's a lot of people that, even if you take the stand in your own behalf, you're testifying, and they hold that against you.
Yeah.
And look, that's a family crisis. The father, no disrespect to him, but, he's a government witness.
Yes.
He became a government witness.
100%.
Okay.
And
so
he understands that.
No, and that's okay. And I don't judge him. I don't fault him. Would I go out and do something questionable with him? No,
Right.
Because, I know what the possibility may happen. But I want to say something, Vlad. In 2001, I was indicted on 59 counts. My son, who was in the middle of this whole mess, was indicted maybe 59. I think I had the most. He might have had like 56 or 57 accounts. My ex-wife, we weren't ex at the time, we were separated, she got indicted with the same amount of counts as my son. So what did the Christies do? The Christies held fast as a family. My son didn't testify or make any statements against me or his mother or anybody. Me, I didn't make any statements against my son, my ex, or anybody. My wife, who was offered $1 million, she would not have to face deportation because she was a Canadian citizen.
Your wife was offered $1 million
Yes.
to testify against you.
Yes.
And she didn't take it?
She didn't take it.
Okay.
And that's...
there are women watching this right now saying, I would have absolutely taken that money.
I'm sure there would have, And you know
he
what?
cheated on me anyways. I could think of an excuse to do this.
Well, you know what? She was my high school sweetheart. My wife, Beverly, and her were good friends, who I'm married to now. And I think that there are women out there that wouldn't take the deal. And I'll tell you, I think Beverly's one of them. Cheryl was one of them. But there's a lot of them. I could mention somebody in between Cheryl and Beverly that I think may have taken a deal. But anyways, I won't get into that. But, no disrespect to that gentleman. But, he's a government witness. He made a decision what he wants to do. And now he's got to live with it.
So if you were in that situation, you would have kept your mouth shut.
Well, look,
and potentially did 30 years.
It's easy to sit here and say that, look, my first case, I was facing life. I didn't make a deal. Life in 20. I didn't make a deal. I beat the case. My second case, I was facing like 160 years.
Right.
I didn't make a deal. Ultimately, the case collapsed under its own weight. I got probation, time served. They dropped all accounts. Same thing with my boy and my ex. In 2011, I get indicted. Count 6, 7, and 8 are mandatory minimums of life. You're familiar with that term.
Mm-hmm.
I held fast, my daughter fought the case, chipped away at it, took 3 years. We argued that it was a house of cards, and ultimately the, U.S. attorney made a deal with us, I went to prison in Texas for a year.
Yeah.
But 3 years of probation.
Yeah.
The case, look at it from this perspective. The investigation started in 2007. I don't know if you've ever been investigated, but it affects you. I don't care what anybody says. They can say, let them bring it on. In the back of your mind, you're under investigation for 2 arsons. And you're thinking, who's going to say something, whether real or imagined, or they think this is what transpired. 2011, you get indicted. You fight the case for 3 years. You go to prison. You come home in it was 2014 or 2015. I complete my probation in 2018. How many years is that?
11 years. Yeah.
There you go. So my advice to people is, if you're going to get involved in a street culture, think about it real carefully, because it's a completely different world. It's a completely set of different dynamics. First, the world changed so much. The first thing they do now, when I got to prison in Texas, you walk in there, what car are you riding in? Are you white? Are you black? Are you Mexican? Are you Aryan? What are you, man?
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. What did you do? I did this. I robbed a bank. They go over to the phone, call home, look up this name on the computer. Child molester.
Yeah.
And, in the old days, man, you could dodge that shit. In 1986, when I got to Terminal Island, paperwork wouldn't catch up with you for days, There were serious Mexican Mafia members in there that I had relationships with. Any reason you shouldn't be on the yard? They're going, no, everything's fine. Well, the paperwork catches up 10 days later or something. But nowadays, it's all instant. It's a different world we're living in.
Yeah.
The local cops in town tie in with the feds. They tie in with them because then they can use the federal laws. They were using the Patriot Act. They were listening to everybody's phone calls before I got busted. And one of the informants was trying to get me to say compromising things about the firebombing. I never ordered any firebombs. They had witnesses that said no. George said in the meeting, don't firebomb tattoo shops.
I mean, look, we had the conversation yesterday, me and Abdul, talking about the situation. And I said that if I was in his shoes at the moment that those guys came out the house, got in my car and told me we were just involved in a murder and we just left a hostage in that house, I would have told them, you have to turn yourselves in.
And would you have done it?
And that's what I would say at that point. You guys have to turn yourselves in. I will get you a lawyer, and I will pay whatever it costs, and I'll have the lawyer walk you in. But I am not leaving this driveway right now with you guys in the car, because now I'm an accessory to murder and kidnapping.
Now let me ask you this.
Let me just say this, though. When I said this to Abdul, he said I was not going to tell them to turn themselves in. It's just that was not me. So at that moment, he said that was not an option for him.
But he testified against him.
Later on, he did, yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't that seem kind of ironic?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the whole street rule thing is stupid. I think from top to bottom, I think these rules are set up so the guys at the top can continue to make money off everyone and be at the top and make all the other guys do the jail time for them while they're giving orders and making all the money. I think that's what it's really set up to do, honestly. Because at the end of the day, why would you go do a bunch of time over something someone else did over these imaginary rules that aren't set in stone in any law book?
Right.
That's how I look at it. But then again, I'm not a gangster. I'm not a criminal. Yeah, I pay my taxes. I do the right thing.
But you had an actual crime happen. There was an actual crime that took place.
There was an actual crime that took place.
A lot of things with me and the Hells Angels, there was no crime. I mean,
yeah.
They said that I ordered the murder of an informant. No, the Mexican Mafia informant came to me. Mike Mulhern, Slim, used to call him Poor Slim. He always had a sob story. Came to me and said, this guy owes us $10,000. We don't want to kill him, George, but we're going to have to if you don't pay the money. I'm going to pay $10,000 for some guy sitting in jail that I have no relationship with to prevent a murder. No, and you know what? I got beefed over it. I beat it. I proved that.
They tried to charge you with what? Like a murder for hire?
Murder for hire. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I spent a year in federal prison. I spent. Well, the club did. I spent $500,000 in 1986 for Barry Tarlow, one of the top 10 lawyers in the world at that time. And nowadays, God only knows what something like that would cost you. But in 2001, I get indicted on this. They had no evidence against me. They had no conversations. The most incriminating conversation they had of me was 2 Hells Angels. The case was a Vicodin case. My son, along with some of his friends, had somebody that they were all friends with, grew up with. He went into the Air Force. He worked in the pharmacy. They stole 1 million Vicodin from the from the government. Was it a real case? Yeah, it was a real case. But was I involved in it? I didn't steal anything. They didn't have nothing on me. But I got beefed, you know. That's part of the game. The Vicodin was hidden in my ex-wife's house. My son had it hidden in his clothes. They beefed her to pressure her to testify against me. So, you know, my advice to people is the street codes, you know, is it really there anymore? I mean, you interview guys all the time.
All the time.
There's
they all cooperate, and they all have a great reason why they cooperate.
Well, of course they had to.
Right. Everyone has a great reason.
Yeah.
I was going to do 1,000,000 years, but then I heard this, so therefore I testified against everybody.
Right.
You know, Sammy the Bull. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. And I remember I asked Sammy, I said, well, listen, I understand the beef with John Gotti because he's on tape.
He's going to kill him. Yeah.
You know, was trying to put everything on you, but you testified against all these other guys also.
And how did he respond?
He said, well...
It sounds like that I put them in jail. Sounds like that.
They put themselves in jail.
Let's talk about Chin. Let's talk about Chin. I'm not the only guy who testified.
Yeah.
Al Diaco testified. Other people testified. They had tapes. They had everything under the sun. So I was a part of that. But when they say you put 38 people away, I could have put 338 people away in reality. Mm-hmm. And I didn't.
You know, I mean,
justification.
There's always a justification.
And what'd you think of Sammy?
Listen, I think he cooperated because he wanted to get out of prison.
Okay.
You know, he ultimately had 19 murders and got time served.
I recently spoke to him on the phone.
Yeah.
There was a
interesting guy.
There was a production company
now,
that was interested in his expertise and my expertise, and they put us together, and we had a phone conversation. Sure. He's, you know, he's an interesting guy.
He's an interesting guy. That's what it is, George Christie. We're going to switch positions. You're going to interview me now.
Okay.
Let's do this.
All right, George Christie here.
Yeah.
Guest host on VladTV.
Yeah.
Vlad, the worm has turned.
That's right.
And I got some questions here for you. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to put you in the hot seat.
Of course.
Do people come here for redemption or exposure? What do you think their thoughts are?
Great question. I think a little of both. It depends on who I'm interviewing at the time. I think a lot of people, you know, because a lot of times when people get out of prison,
right,
they hit me first. Like I usually get first dibs on some of the big criminal figures that come out of jail after doing, you know, 25, 30 years and so forth. So I think that they want to tell their story and they've seen my other interviews and they see how I conduct them.
Right.
And it really gives just a good overview of who they are without a lot of judgment.
Right.
So,
and how does that make you feel as an interviewer?
It makes me feel good because a lot of these guys, like for example, like Birdman's brother, Terrence Gangster Williams, we did his first interview. Now he's got a whole career. He's got a popular YouTube channel because he was actually, when he got out, he was on probation and had to keep a regular job. And he was working at a Tyson Chicken where he was hosing down chicken blood and, you know,
right? Yeah,
not a very nice job,
and not very romantic.
Exactly, right.
From
I can get a lot of girls.
Life.
Yeah, exactly. You're covered in blood all day, and you know, doing a lot of manual labor. And after our interview, he launched his own YouTube channel, and after about a year, he was making enough money where he could actually quit his job. And he met with his probation officer, and he showed the officer, okay, this is my YouTube checks, and they're like, okay, go ahead and quit your job. You're good. And ever since then, he's been supporting himself, and that makes me feel good where these guys come out. And they don't just do one interview with me. It turns into a career for them.
Do they seem grateful?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, I believe that. Now I'm going to ask you, I've got we talked about Tukey earlier. I've got a friend that he's a black rapper. See the Rebel. He just did 19 years. He went away. His stuff was very relevant and good. What would you suggest for him? He's going to be out of the halfway house in a couple of months. What would you say to him?
How old is he?
He's 47.
It's a little tough for someone in his position because you could be a established artist at 47. You could be like a legendary classic person with a lot of hits under their belt that can continue to do tours and so forth. I have a lot of friends who are in their 50s who still tour and they have this nice catalog that they are able to perform into their 50s, sometimes even their 60s. But if he doesn't have any big songs under his belt, to now try to break into music at 47 years old, almost 50 years old.
It's going to be rough.
It's going to be rough. Not to say it's not impossible. I mean, I've seen, people like 2 Chainz, they, in their late 30s, they changed their name. He used to be called Titty Boy. He changed his name to 2 Chainz. He came out with some projects. People took to it. And now I believe he's in his early 50s, late 40s, and he's still doing well. But he pivoted like in his late 30s.
Right. What's interesting is I took his music to one of the producers for Korn. Remember the rock group Korn? And he told me the music was okay, but he said the lyrics were the best stuff he'd heard in years. And my advice to him was to redo that era. He never got off the ground. He got beefed and did 19 years.
It's a tough situation because, look, music, art changes. It's very much a youth-driven culture. And, you have to think about this because I remember even in my own life, I remember at 29, I decided to shift gears and I was doing tech and I decided to pursue DJing, to pursue the arts. And I knew that this was really kind of like my last chance because at 29, I was still young enough to get going. But if I waited another 10, 20 years, I was going to be too late. It was going to be too late to start.
Right.
So I threw my hat in my early 30s. I really got to figure things out and so forth. And I switched lanes and I pivoted and so forth. But being almost 50, not to say it's impossible, but it's definitely going to be a lot harder than being a 27-year-old.
Well, let me ask you this. You've interviewed a lot of gangsters, rappers.
Yeah.
People that have committed murder.
Yes.
Has anyone scared you, and who would that be?
Nah, well, okay. So one guy, 03 Greedo, he was on his way to prison to do like 20 years. He's out now. He got out early. But this was like the last interview he did before he turned himself in. And even though we didn't put this part out, as we're talking, I mentioned a guy that he had some beef with, right? And he said, I don't want to talk about that guy. And I'm trying to say, well, I interviewed him and he actually spoke nicely about you and said that there's no beef and so forth. So as I'm trying to get that out, he gets angry and says, I told you I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to do this interview. Like, screw this. And he gets up and I'm like, yo, I'm sorry. My bad. That was one moment. But now that I'm actually talking, the one time that I actually was scared in real life, where I thought something might actually happen. Because in that case, he was just angry. I didn't think he was going to lunge.
He was emotional.
He was emotional. He got up. He didn't confront me. I was sitting over there. So that wasn't really scary, but it was definitely tense. After that, I got security to sit in on all my interviews when I was a little unsure about the person. But Mike Tyson.
I don't see anybody here today.
Right, there's no one here.
I'm all watched up, man.
You don't frighten me like some people I interview. But Mike Tyson, I remember when I did the interview with him, and we were actually doing it in a boxing gym at his personal gym, right? At his studio, there's a boxing gym. So we're doing the studio. So I'm in the ring with Mike Tyson, an actual boxing ring. And as I'm talking to him, I say, well, here you are, this multimillionaire. And, it seems like you've always been attracted to the guys that are still in the streets to a certain degree. Do you think that's a fair statement?
You think I'm attracted to them?
Well, not attracted to them, but I mean, you like having them around. You're friends with them, and you maintain.
You think I like having them around?
I'm just asking.
You think I'm friends? What do you think? You think I like having them around?
And
I said, wow, Mike just thought that I called him gay. All right. And he's like, way closer than me and you are right now. He's literally like our knees are almost touching, right? And I'm like, you know, and look, you and I are old enough to remember this is the scariest man on the planet for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
There was no one scarier than Mike Tyson.
I think he's still pretty scary.
He's still scary, right? He's still scary, but you know, you're thinking about all the people he knocked out that you watched, and I'm now having to talk my way out of this situation.
Do you think he was fucking with you, or was he serious?
No, I think he was serious at that moment.
Because I think he fucks with people a lot.
He does fuck with people, and maybe he was doing it just to do it, right? Because I remember
because he can do it.
Because he can do it, right? I remember I interviewed Holyfield. I told him about that story. He goes, "Yeah, I don't know why Mike does that. He does that to people, like." And Holyfield's the exact opposite. Holyfield's like the nicest guy ever, right? But he's like, well, what do you mean attracted? I said, well, it just seems like you like to hang out. Oh, you think I like to hang out with guys like this? And I'm like, okay, this is just not going well right now.
So how did you end it?
Well, I just kept talking, and eventually I think he got it. He goes, well, yeah, you know, we grew up with these guys, and they would help us out when we were young and give us money. So when you get older, you know, these guys were your friends. And I'm like, okay, whew, all right, I'm out of this situation. This was a little scary. And the video came out, right? And people got a kick out of it.
They got a kick out of it.
They got a kick out of it.
Did people think he was serious, or was he joking?
I think people thought he was serious. I think he was serious.
He may have been serious.
I think he was. I think if I would have been like, if I would have messed with him, like, oh yeah, are you gay, Mike? You know, tell me, like, you know, do you like men? Like, I think if I would have just started pushing him, because, you know, not too long after that, there was that incident on a flight where like some guy behind him kept messing with him. Mike just turned around and just started punching him. Yeah, you know, it's like, you don't really want to push Mike.
Right.
He's still Mike Tyson.
Of course he is,
right?
And he always will be.
He always will be. So you don't want to keep pushing him. I was trying to ease up off of it. I was trying to backpedal.
You know, it's interesting because someone recently asked me can you still rise to the occasion? And, you know, it's much better for me now because I'm in a I can't lose situation, because if I kick your ass, you got beat up by an old man. Yeah. And if I lose, well, you beat up an old man. I mean, I can't lose. But I got another question, and I can relate to your answer because I get accused of this. Are you exploiting your guests? Or are you like I get accused of exploiting the Hells Angels, and are you exploiting the streets? Or are you documenting the streets? I get accused of exploiting, but I'm trying to document the history of the outlaw bike culture. So tell me what Vlad's doing.
Well, I try to document in general, and I don't just, you know, with you focus on a certain genre, whereas I do a lot of different genres.
Right.
Not only do I interview Hells Angels, I interview Crips, Bloods, Latin Kings, Mexican Mafia guys, drug kingpins, but I also interview rappers, singers, producers, actors, NBA players, NFL players, billionaires, business people, social media influencers. It's all over the place.
So it's not just the streets.
It's not. No. If you look at my catalog, it's all over the place.
Okay,
right.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I'm documenting this whole time. Now, when it comes to certain types of people will say, "Oh, well, you're exploiting this person." But at the end of the day, everyone that comes on my show wants to come on my show. I do sometimes offer appearance fees in certain situations, but not all the time. And in terms of the appearance fee, usually those people have, if they're at the point of getting an appearance fee, they usually have options on where they want to go. And they're usually the ones that are approaching me and saying, hey, I want to do your show, but I'm going to need this much money to do it. It's not like I'm finding someone who's down and out and offering them some money and trying to exploit them in that regard. That really just never happens. It's usually someone that's already trying to do media, already trying to get their story out and so forth. So I don't think it's exploitation, but at the end of the day, it's all in the way you view it. Someone will look at that same interview and say that I'm exploiting that person. And I can't help how people think about what it is I put out in the world. I guess someone who creates content, you put it out and people will take it how they take it.
Can VladTV survive without the rappers?
Absolutely.
Without the criminals?
100%.
So you feel confident?
100%. Because we don't only do that. Like we some of my biggest interviews have been with athletes, have been with actors.
Who do you think's benefited the most that sat in that chair?
I think comedians have really benefited.
And who would that be? Would you name one?
TK Kirkland, Ari Spears, those are two that just off the top of my head that I've seen their careers grow significantly after doing my show on a regular basis. TK Kirkland says it all the time. He said that VladTV was a pivot for him. Once he did that, a lot more people started to book him and so forth. Ari Spears, been doing my show for a couple of years, but recently his stuff's, the stuff that we put together, just started going super viral on TikTok. It was just one of those things that just happened. And suddenly his bookings are huge. He's everywhere. He's in Saudi Arabia doing that big comedy festival where he said he got paid more than he's ever been paid. He's flying first class on Emirates and so forth. And, moments like that are cool to me because I'm like, yo, this is great. Like someone who is on my show and we're creating great content together, they're also benefiting outside of the show. And to me, that's a win-win situation.
Right. Do you, I think I've heard some allegations that people see this as an interrogation room. It's a new interrogation room.
Sure.
And how do you feel about that? How do you respond?
Well, I do serious interviews. Before VladTV came around, hip-hop media was very softball. No one wanted to upset anybody. Everyone wanted to ask very surface-level questions. No one was asking about the stuff that they talk about in barbershops. No one talks about specific lyrics or everything else like that. And I was looking at other media outlets, serious ones like 60 Minutes and, 2020 and, Nightline and Barbara Walters and so forth. Like they really go into the story and they dive all the way into it. So I went into this with that intention that if we're going to sit down, I'm going to go as far as I could possibly go. Now, I don't insult people. I don't make people storm out or whatever else. Yeah, occasionally someone might get upset here and there, but in general, I try to dig as deep as I can while still keeping it respectful. So from the outside looking in, it may look like an interrogation, but the reality is it's a very in-depth interview.
Okay. What's the one interview you wish you never did?
The one interview I wish I never did was an interview with this artist named BTB Savage.
Right.
So I was involved in a home invasion at one point where a guy broke into a home of a girl that I was seeing and attacked me and tried to kill me. And I thought I'd killed him that night. It got extremely violent that night. And I walked out of that apartment thinking there was a dead body in the room, right? Because this was something that he initiated.
Right.
He jumped in through the window and attacked me. So I have a thing about protecting yourself and home invasions and so forth. So I heard a story about this rapper named BTB Savage from Texas, where a guy came to his apartment and I guess it was a drug deal that went wrong and the guy pulled out a gun and tried to rob him and they ended up fighting over the gun. He ended up killing the guy, right? So we did the interview, and during the interview, he was somewhat braggadocious in the way he was explaining the story, right? Not really what...
Was he cavalier to you as well, or just...
He just was... I think he was just happy that he survived the situation, and I can understand how you would feel that way. But he was not very remorseful and so forth. So that interview came out, and a couple of days after that, he posted a picture of himself at the crime scene with blood all over the floor, and he's like showing off his jewelry and basically saying that the caption was too much motion, meaning that like I'm really hot right now. And later that day, he was killed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And retaliation, different incident.
You would assume that it was probably
he pushed it too far.
It was related to the person that he killed in self-defense. I think it was retaliation for that. Is my best guess. I don't know where that case is. I'm not sure if it's still unsolved or whatever else. I believe it happened in broad daylight, so you would think that someone ended up getting arrested for it. But it was these series of events that happened that caused this young man to lose his life. And I felt awful about the situation. And no one would have guessed that this would have happened, but, you know, and the picture, I think, is what ultimately was like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? But he was killed literally a few hours after that photo came out. And it was a very grisly photo. I've never heard of anyone doing this before.
Right.
To take a photo where there's blood all over the floor over a murder, you were
Jay Dobbins.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. The fake, the Mongol killing, right? Yeah, exactly. Because people don't do stuff like this. They don't do stuff like this.
Yeah. It's interesting. It had to affect you.
It definitely. I just felt sad about it, man,
Right.
because it was like this was a young guy. He's a young guy. I believe he had a baby.
Right.
You know, it was just sad. It was sad, and you know, his mom started doing interviews, and she accused me of like cutting out some of the footage and forcing him to talk about it when he didn't want to talk about it, which was that part was just complete.
Was she building a lawsuit?
No, I don't think she's building a lawsuit.
Right.
Because there's nothing to sue over. But at the end of the day, the story she told was not correct. We didn't cut out any footage. He wanted to talk about it. We didn't splice anything out or steer it a certain type of way. He was there to talk about that story, and he talked about it. And I understand that as a mother, you're grieving. You want to blame somebody. You're hurting, and I understand why she would do that. You know, the reality is that we never cut anything out. Everything that he recorded that day was released. Right. He wanted to talk about it. He took a certain stance on it. I understand why he took that stance. I don't know why he took the photo. The photo I thought was just completely insane.
A lapse of judgment.
Yeah. And I think it was probably at that time with my interview, that was probably the most kind of publicity and promotion he's ever gotten, because his rap career wasn't really taking off. He was just a local rapper. And I think being on Vlad TV, suddenly there's all this energy, and he wants to capitalize off it. Let me see how much more outrageous I can go. Okay, I'll take a photo.
It's seductive. Attention can be seductive. Power is seductive.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. How will hip-hop remember Vlad? Are you a villain or a hero, or do you give a damn?
I mean, I think that for a long time, I was known as a villain in this space. And I think once you do something first, you're going to get all the heat over that. Not only all the love, but also everyone criticizing you. So I think that me coming out with a new style of interviewing in this space, a lot of people made me look like the villain for a long time. But when when I started Vlad TV in 2008, we're going into 2026 now. So this is 18 years? Now what I do is not that shocking. A lot of people do what I do. In fact, you even have people like, Traplo Ross, who's a friend of mine who's on the show a lot. He goes way further. He does these like YouTube documentaries where he's accusing people of multiple murders that they haven't been charged with and all types of crazy stuff that I wouldn't do.
Right.
I would not do that.
Let me ask you this.
Right. But and now he's sort of like the new villain. Right. And now people are looking at me as like, okay, Vlad's not that bad, But yeah, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. It doesn't really bother me either way.
Maybe you set the pace.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either way because, at the end of the day, whether you're the hero or the villain, that's just all a frame of view.
Okay, at the end of the day, somebody out there from one of these big conglomerates or one of these big giant brands wants to sponsor Vlad. They want you to be who would you pick? Who would you want to do something for?
Oh, we have a deal with one of these big
you do
these big brands. Yeah, we're gonna announce it soon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
Vlad,
I'm
Vlad
onto
TV,
something here.
Yeah. Vlad.
You're not gonna let me break it in my segment.
No, we can't break it yet because there's already a deal in place, but there's also like the bigger sign off that has to happen and everything else like that. So we're kind of in the middle of it all.
Right.
But there's going to be something very big with a very huge brand that every single person is familiar with, every single person uses, where Vlad TV is going to be the face of that.
What other platform would you want to be on as a guest? If you could pick any.
I've wanted to be on Joe Rogan a lot. I've spoken to a few people like Killer Mike that reached out to him, but I guess he's not interested.
And
at the moment.
What seems to be the problem?
I mean, he picks who he wants to pick.
Sure.
That's it. I mean, there's no problem. I have no beef with Joe Rogan.
Okay. And that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, not at all. I don't. He knows who I am because he's played some of my clips on his show.
Oh, he has?
Yeah. Right, which is fine. Which is totally fine. So he knows who I am, but I don't know whether he feels that I am an appropriate guest on the Rogan Experience. And maybe one day I will be. But yeah, that's definitely, to me, that's the number one guy right now in terms of this space overall. And being on a show would be great.
Have you considered signing somebody and breaking them on the Vlad show?
We don't really sign people.
Okay.
We
Is that something you'd consider if somebody was really talented?
Not really. I mean, we have hired other interviewers. For example, Cavario did your
Sure,
first
yeah.
interview. So
Yeah,
we have
and,
people.
and we continue to be friends.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, man. I love Cavario. Sean Prez, he does a lot of interviews for me. Lunel, she does, the comedian, she does interviews for me. Gloria Velez, she has a podcast that we do on Vlad TV every so often. So we have people that we kind of bring in here and there, but I really don't like to sign people, and I'd rather work with them and we all just sort of build up together. So like Tony Yayo is a perfect example of that.
Right.
He was just on the Kill Tony podcast, right? And this was, a rapper, but he was really kind of 50 Cent's right-hand man for a long time. And working with Vlad TV, people really got to see his real personality. And now he's doing tours on his own. He's getting big podcasts. Everywhere he goes, people are recognizing that they're mentioning stuff from Vlad TV. There's a food show they're working on with him right now. And that to me is like, that's cool. So as opposed to signing someone and then feeling like, okay, I got to really work on this person and really try to get, this entity off the ground, I'd rather just, hey, come do some stuff on my platform, whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera. If it works, we'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, cool. And if you want to go do it somewhere else, that's fine too.
I got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
First one is, right or wrong, 50 Cent on Diddy?
I think it's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. People are allowed to put together documentaries. And if you think about it, 50 Cent, his son's mother was wrapped up in the whole Diddy situation.
Right.
So I think that Diddy made it personal with 50 by doing that.
Okay.
So 50 is petty.
It's payback time.
It's payback. And you really think about it, right? Like, you got to think, if you're Diddy, you have access to so many women anywhere in the world. Do you really have to go and do all this stuff with the baby mother of one of your rivals? Right?
I'm
seriously.
I understand.
I've always been good about it. Like, I've never dated girls who used to date my friends or anything else like that. I thought that was stupid. There's so many women out there. And especially once you get to a certain level, you have access to whoever you want to have access to. You got to go and pick someone who's problematic. It's going to cause all types of other problems for you because they're attached to someone that you know. So I think that Diddy made it very personal with 50, and 50 said, okay.
Okay, you want to play.
You want to play. And, and this is the thing when, like, you're dealing with people with money is that they can afford to be petty. They can afford to lose some money to prove a point. I've done that with people, and people have done that with me. So,
was it worth the cost?
Sometimes it was. Sometimes it wasn't. I have a lawsuit right now with somebody, and at first it was fuck you, and then once I filed, we then got on the phone and we started talking like grown men, and we worked it out, right? And I think had I not done that, we wouldn't have gotten to that point. So it is what it is sometimes.
Let me ask you a political question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that President Trump and Vice President Vance should have berated the leader of Ukraine the way they did, the president? I thought it was inappropriate.
It was inappropriate, but Trump is always inappropriate in his own way. So none of it really surprised me. I think that war is a mess. I think it's dragged on way too long. I don't think there's a clear end in sight. And I think there's a certain level of frustration because America's been funding this war this whole time, right? You take America's funding out of the equation and Ukraine is over,
right?
Right, in a week. So I think there's a level of frustration. I think there's a level of, I kind of understood where they're coming from in a certain regard of like, look, we're not going to just keep giving you money hand over fist unless you start changing something. We're not just going to keep funding this war for the next 20 years.
Right.
Right? Because it's pointless at this point. Russia's a much bigger entity. They have a lot more money. They have a lot more people. They have a lot more, ammunition and so forth. Eventually, it's going to work out the way it's going to work out. So I think there's a level of like, work this shit out if you want us to keep giving you more checks.
Final question. Is Putin stronger or weaker after the public and the world perceives him in this war?
I think he's stronger. I mean, people say that's the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
You just don't know how much he's worth.
Well, you know, in 2015, I did a show, Outlaw Chronicles, and it went all over the world, and it went to Russia. And I was doing interviews, and there was a big Russian magazine article or newspaper article, and I ran into some Russian people by accident, and they interpreted the article for me. I got in a conversation with them. They realized I had been in this powerful position in this international organization, but they told me that the people really love Putin in Russia.
Yeah, they do. I've been to Russia.
Yeah.
People really love. I mean, you can't stay in power that long and be just hated.
Do you think you'll be assassinated ultimately?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. And I remember this one time, right? I interviewed this guy. He was a former KGB agent, right? Who worked directly for Russia, spying in the U.S.
Well, Putin was a KGB agent.
Exactly, was a KGB agent himself, right? And I remember I was talking to him, and this was sort of, I think, the start of the Ukraine war. And I said, well, people are saying that Putin has cancer, and he's really sick, and he only has a couple months left to live. And he said, do you really think you know Putin's health status? You really think you know that? I said, that's a good point. Like, the public knowing, you know, one of the most powerful people on earth, you know, their health status, yeah, we don't know. And sure enough, he's healthy, whatever, 3-4 years later, he's still doing his thing. Yeah, I think Putin has shown a high level of strength. I mean, I think with Putin, he's used to the USSR, and I think he's trying to put that back together.
I see.
I think that
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think the USSR, you know, falling apart under Gorbachev was something that he really hated. And I think he's trying to put it back together and get some of those countries that seceded to actually be part of the USSR again. And, I mean, he's partially succeeded.
And the USSR was very powerful, perceived in the world very powerful. And I'll close this thing with... I took care of the Southern California submarine surveillance system that monitored for Russian submarines when I worked for the Department of Defense. And that's when they found out that I was the leader of the Los Angeles Hells Angels, and they took my clearance away. Because I was hanging out in the submarine surveillance place. We were looking for the Russian subs. I want to thank you for my second appearance on your program.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you. And if some producer out there picks me up for a program, you're going to be my first guest.
There you go. That's what it is. Peace.